فَلَقْتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةَ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ. But he did not surmount the steep path, and what have you understood what this steep path is? This is a statement of the lack of acknowledgement of the favors of God and the ungratefulness of the adversaries. If the Almighty had blessed him with the faculties of intellect and speech and with guidance, they owed some obligation to these favors. They should have tried to surmount the difficulties which came their way in showing compassion and sympathy to God's creation, in having themselves included in the list of the near ones of the Almighty, and in achieving the blissful state of their being pleased with God and He being pleased with them. However, because of their greed and spinelessness, they did not have the courage to do so. Their wealth restrained them. The word Aqaba means a steep path, and Iqtiham means to climb a slope or to do a difficult task. Here this word refers to commendable acts of virtue which relate to showing sympathy to God's creation and to serving the Almighty. Examples are forthcoming. Since in order to undertake these acts of virtue, a person needs to make sacrifice which weighs down heavily on him, hence this is called surmounting the steep path by the Qur'an. Here the phenomenon to which I have referred to at many places in this tafsir should be kept in consideration, that since in order to achieve all the higher objectives of life, one needs to divert one's inner self from deeds which bring immediate benefits and drive it in a totally different direction, this weighs down heavily on it. On the other hand, trivial undertakings produce immediate benefits and one's soul is easily inclined to them. Jesus ﷺ has explained this by saying, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." Matthew chapter 7 verses 13 and 14. The narrative "Huffatil Jannatu bil Makarih," or paradise is surrounded by hardships, also refers to this very aspect. I have explained the style found in the verse وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْعَقَبَةُ. Such a question is posed to express the majesty or dread of something. The implication of the verse is to inform the adversaries that they are dreaming to become the near and favorite ones of the Almighty merely by observing certain rites, whereas attaining this position requires the surmounting of steep paths and showing valor and bravery in life. These adversaries are avaricious, and the avaricious can never attain this position. If they want to do so, then what they must do is spelled out in the next verses. فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ أَوْ إِطْعَامٌ فِي يَوْمٍ ذِي مَسْغَبَةٍ يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ أَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. Freeing of a slave, or feeding in days of famine of an orphan near of kin, or an indigent down in the dust. The first of the mentioned things is liberating a slave. Here it should be kept in mind that since these verses belong to the initial Meccan period, the Arabs are addressed by the general word man, and whatever has been required of them also relates to what is universal and what is obvious with regard to human nature. I have already alluded to this aspect in the introduction of this surah. Liberating a slave and making an effort that others also do so is something which is regarded as a virtue by every sensible person. The Arabs too regarded it to be a great act of virtue. The Qur'an, in its very initial phase of preaching, placed this act of human service at the top of all virtues. At that time, other people of the world were yet to have an awareness of this virtue. I have already explained in the tafsir of Surah Nur how from the very beginning the Qur'an urged and exhorted people to adopt it, and how then it embarked upon a campaign to eliminate gradually the institution of slavery from the society. After this, the verse mentions the feeding of the poor and the indigent. The word it'am is in its broader connotation and means to fulfill all the needs of such people. It is qualified by the phrase fi yawmin zi masqaba, or in days of famine, which is meant to increase the efficacy of the appeal. No doubt feeding the poor is a virtuous act. However, in days of famine, its value increases greatly. Similar is the case of the qualifying phrase dha maqraba, or near of kin, after the word yatiman, or orphan. The implication is that every orphan deserves help. However, an orphan who is a relative is most worthy of help. No different is the case of the qualifying phrase the matraba, or down in the dust after miskinan, or an indigent. ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة. Then he be of those who accepted faith and who counsel one another to be patient and sympathetic. These verses state the next step that these people should undertake. Those who are sensitive and whose eyes pick up the downtrodden around them are expected to observe the virtues spelled out above, and should also be expected to do so among those who embrace faith and among those who call people to show patience and to be sympathetic to their fellow human beings. If they are not able to do so, then this only means that there is some hurdle in their moral and spiritual development which they have not been able to overcome. Here the word marhama, or sympathy, is mentioned together with sabr, or patience, the way haqq, or truth, is mentioned together with sabr, or patience, in Surah Asr. The reason for this is the nature of the deeds of virtue towards which I have referred to while explaining the expression iqtaham al-aqaba in verse 11. These deeds are generally against one's inner desires, and hence a person has to counter this obstacle while doing such deeds, and is like climbing a slope. Only those people can climb this slope who have the quality of patience in them. The real meaning of patience in Arabic is perseverance and steadfastness. Those who are devoid of this quality lack valor and bravery. Hence, it was deemed necessary that those who have been urged to do virtuous deeds should also be urged to be patient and steadfast. More details of this will be furnished in the tafsir of Surah Asr, insha'Allah. أولئك أصحاب الميمنة والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة عليهم نار مؤصدة. These are the fortunate, and those who have denied our revelations, it is they who are the unfortunate. The fire shall close in on them. Here at the end, the fates of those who have the mettle to do the above mentioned deeds and those who do not are stated. There is an ellipsis of some words regarding the Ashab al-Maymana, as is evident from the contrasting words alayhim narum muqsada regarding the Ashab al-Mash'ama. The suppressed words are to the effect, they shall reside in the upper floors of the buildings of paradise. The origin of the word Maymana can be from Yamin, which means right, or from Yumn, which means blessed and fortunate. Since here it is mentioned in contrast to Mash'ama, whose origin is Shu'um, which means misfortune and ill-fated, its origin must be regarded to be the word Yumn. I have translated it accordingly. However, this difference is mere literal. It will not make any difference in the real purport of the discourse. The Qur'an is called both these factions as Ashabul Yamin, or companions of the right hand, and Ashabul Shimal, or companions of the left hand. The reason behind these names has been mentioned in Surah Haqqa. The pious will be given their account in their right hands, and the impious will be given their account in their left hands. The only difference between both interpretations of the word is that one relates to the apparent and the other to the essence. Obviously, those who will be handed their accounts in their right hands will be the fortunate and lucky, and those who will be handed their accounts in their left hands will be the unfortunate and the ill-fated. Consider now the verse, alayhim narum muqsada. The expression awsad al-bab means he closed the door. The implication is that they will be enveloped in fire and doors will close upon them. May God save us from such a torment. With the grace of God, I have come to the end of this surah's tafsir. Falillahil hamd, or to God is due all gratitude. Lahore, 31st December 1979 AD, 11th Safar, 1400 AH.